I could use multiple examples from the Old Testament to demonstrate my point here, but let me just give one. Prophet Elisha had a double portion anointing than what the great prophet Elijah had. Yet in 2 Kings 13:14 we read, "Now Elisha was fallen sick of his sickness, whereof he died." A double anointed prophet like Elisha had sickness which he died from? Can some of the healthy and wealthy faith healers and television pastors explain that, please? And have a go at the book of Job while you're at it. And what about some examples from the New Testament? Trophimus was left sick in Miletus. The Apostle Paul was with him, by the way. Epaphroditus was sick to the point of death. Timothy was encouraged to use a little wine for his stomach. In the book of Acts, chapter 19, around 10 years earlier than this, handkerchiefs and aprons that had touched the Apostle Paul was taken to the sick and who then had their illnesses cured and evil spirits left them by the miraculous healing power of God. Why didn't the Apostle Paul do any of these healing miracles from Acts 19 for Trophimus, Epaphroditus, or Timothy, or even himself? In Galatians 4:13-14, we read of a bodily illness that Paul tells the Galatians he had. My friends, that image of God as a cosmic candyman, whose sole purpose is to keep us healthy and wealthy, while we live a few decades of life in a world of rebellion, but without any hard soul sanctification building process for greater good, really needs to stop. That's not what Orthodox Christian theology teaches, and it's not what Christianity teaches about healing miracles, and it's not how Christianity responds to the problem of suffering. Not even close. The sovereign God did not heal everyone back in the Old Testament. He did not heal everyone in the New Testament, and He does not heal everyone today. Now, we live in a fallen world where there are plenty of cases where people have health problems and injuries that are by no fault of their own, and I will address that in a minute. But many people pull far too many all-nighters for partying or playing video games instead of sleeping, and eat junk food most of the times, or smoke a package of cigarettes or two every day, or lying on the sofa all the time and don't get enough exercise. I mean, you get the idea. The bottom line is that oftentimes the prayer requests for healing that are brought up in churches and the general health complaining are a direct result of our poor, freely chosen lifestyle decisions. Don't get me wrong, I am not saying that you should never ever pray for healing and come with an honest heart to God in prayer. 8 years ago, God healed me from an illness which I had for 13 years that caused me monthly troubles. I was healed. God set me completely free from that. I did not deserve it, purely an act of undeserved grace from God. And whatever purpose He had behind it, I will not take it for granted. Now, what I am saying is two things. One, we need to have that God is able, but even if He does not attitude, that for example Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had. Two, maybe we should spend more time praying, God, these few decades in this life is nothing compared to eternity. Sanctify me in my struggles. Use this trial to grow me in grace and knowledge of Jesus, glorifying His faithfulness and being a living testimony and witness. I want you to listen to this next testimony told by Justin Peters. Whether you are in a poor life situation or among the 260 million Christians who are suffering from extreme persecution around the world for their Christian faith, or you are suffering from an illness or an injury that you will have for the rest of your life unless God provides a miracle, this next video clip is for you, and may the peace of Christ be with you.
I want to show you a picture of a man I met in Long Island, New York. His name is Rich. Rich was born able-bodied, and Rich got saved when he was 19 years old. And just a few years after that, when he was 23, I think, Rich had a motorcycle accident, and it left him completely paralyzed. No use of his legs at all, very, very limited use of his arms. And Rich can do nothing for himself physically. He lives with his brother and his sister-in-law, neither of whom are believers, neither of whom are Christians. But every Sunday morning, Rich asks his brother and sister-in-law to get him up out of bed. They bathe him and they dress him, and they put him in his electric wheelchair. And Rich drives his electric wheelchair 5 miles one way to church every single Sunday. And he never misses. Even when it's raining, the only thing that will keep Rich from going to church is if it's snowing. Other than that, he's there. The pastor of the church told me, he said, Rich is the most faithful church member I've got. He is quite literally a rolling testimony for Christ. When a lost world sees him every Sunday morning, 5 miles to church, and you talk to him, he's just full of joy. He loves the Lord. He's just a pleasure to be around. God's glorified in that.